Hey, welcome everyone. Looks we have a crowded room here today, so let's get started. In fact, we have attendees from 24 countries around the globe. And thank you for everyone for taking the time to be here today. My name is Timo Salomäki. I'm a partner at Najadai Analytics. And we also have here our CEO, Petri Järvinen. Petri will be talking about quantifying people risks in mergers and acquisitions, and specifically discussing a business case for mitigation. So without any further ado, take it away, Petri.
Hey, thanks, Timo. And thanks to all of you for participating in this call. Quantifying people risk in mergers and acquisitions, or shortly M&A, if anything, that's an important topic. Since every year, trillions of dollars is being poured into these transactions with great hopes and great plans, but unfortunately huge risks as well, failings and even some tragedies, many of which could have been avoided. Many of you have seen or used our analytics product called People Impact Analytics, which helps to identify and mitigate people and culture-related risks in M&A. Today we will be talking very little about our product though. But what we will be talking today is the business case about M&A risks and mitigations, which means focusing on the mechanisms how M&A deals often under-deliver the deal outcomes, either slightly or sometimes catastrophically. As our journey today, I'm seeking to understand how to quantify the M&A failings. So first of all, how often deals succeed and how often they fail. Secondly, when they fail, how much they fail. And thirdly, since our specialty is managing people and culture issues, what part do these factors play in M&A failures? So what is this risk anyway? And can it be mitigated? Is it worth mitigating? What's the business case here? I'm not trying to deliver a perfect mathematical formula or absolute truth here. We will dive into existing data and studies, derive some further numbers, seeking to make sense of this field logically with some simple math and reasonable assumptions. The discussion today will contain a lot of numbers, but it won't be technical, and the numbers for sure tell a very interesting story. Eroding deal values don't benefit anyone, so this would be interesting to you whether you work as a seller or buyer or in M&A consulting capacity. I'm using quite many references to existing studies and datasets. At the end of the presentation, I will list all the used references. So let's dive in. To look into M&A numbers, let's warm up by looking at global M&A volume and how the numbers are trending. It's always good to understand the ballpark size of the phenomena you are trying to get sense of. Several reliable sources give us these global numbers. I'm sure you are familiar with the story that we can see here. The M&A peaked after the pandemic, driven by cheap interest rates, available financing, and all that post-pandemic activity. The increasing interest rates and macroeconomic uncertainty brought this to halt, but we are now rebounding. The economic uncertainty may not have gone away, but the total volume of actual M&A deals is again trending up. My key takeaway from this first stop is that the global volume in M&A is currently in the ballpark of $5 trillion annually. That's a lot of money, so I guess it's an understatement to say that all the involved people, all of us, we should be turning every stone to measure and mitigate the risks. Since our key interest today is in people and culture risks in M&A, can we say something about how many people are involved in all these transactions? The number of involved people is not easily available, but can we get a grasp on the ballpark? I used a couple of proxy concepts to make a rough calculation through existing data. This simple calculation produces us the approximation for the average enterprise value per employee. Adding some premium for the deals, that brings us to roughly $500,000 per employee as a typical deal size. There is of course an enormous amount of variation in these numbers from region to region and deal to deal. These average numbers are based in the US, where the typical deal sizes are probably relatively high. So from the previous page, We remember the total annual M&A volume is in the ballpark of 5 trillion. 5 trillion USD divided by $500,000 per person equals 10 million people. So what we have globally in terms of M&A as very rough ballpark numbers is 50,000 deals annually worth of 5 trillion USD, touching very roughly 10 million people. These are numbers which should make all of us feel very humble and thinking hard about the risks and the mitigations. When we want to understand the successes and failures of M&A activity, we enter the territory of M&A KPIs, and there is a lot of that. I listed here some key metrics, but there's much more when you browse through the M&A literature. We won't be talking about much of these details today. To me, today it comes down to the few key questions that I mentioned earlier. How often deals fail, how much they fail, and what are the key reasons, especially thinking on the role that people and culture issues play. Let's start with the question, how often do M&A deals fail to produce the intended outcomes? This is a question with a lot of great studies and literature backing the conclusions. The most quoted one is the line from Harvard Business Review, famously recapping that it's almost a universal fact that 70 to 90% of the M&A deals fail. These numbers are from early 2000, and it looks like the situation is slightly improving. I'm looking especially at the newer studies in the 2020s with extensive data and careful analysis. Supported by that, I'm taking the conservative position here that a little over half of the M&A deals fail on a significant level to produce the intended outcomes. For example, a remarkable recent study by KPMG analyzed more than 3,000 M&A deals globally. What they call as sobering data is that they found out that 57% of the acquirers ultimately destroyed shareholder value, 57%. And the market adjusted total shareholder value of the buyers drops an average 7.4% in the 2 years following the acquisitions. So 7.4% drop in the buyer valuation. That's not a nice picture. As the KPMG guys themselves put it, and I'm quoting here, the brutal reality is most of the initial gains evaporated soon after the ink dried. We will come back to this interesting study a bit later. But that brings us directly to my next question, which is about the amount or level of failings. On today's journey, I'm not that interested in the average outcomes from an M&A integration. I'm looking at those deals which fail to some extent, seeking to understand how much do these failing deals fail. When things start going wrong in an acquisition or merger, often the first casualties are the intended synergies and other intangible upsides that broadly sit inside the goodwill value of the deal. Even when the integration is not an epic failure, we may see issues like missed cost optimization opportunities, incomplete adoption of common processes and tools, sticking to old inefficient habits, not leveraging deliberately built support functions, failing to realize cross-selling and hence growth opportunities, and in general, failing to utilize the broader connections and capabilities across the new combined company. It's all very human. When the people on different levels don't have proper line of sight or motivation, they will take the path of least resistance in their daily work, which is usually to continue what they have been always doing, and it does not translate well into realizing synergies. And when the things go wrong, the integration costs are very likely to creep us as well. I'm calling this scenario here a kind of normal under-delivery with a little bit sarcasm, since there shouldn't really be anything normal about it. But as we have seen, as a fact, more than half of the integrations do destroy shareholder value. And these are some typical factors how the integration issues cause that. The simple scenario here calculates the level of erosion to the purchase value, assuming 1/3 of the expected synergies and other goodwill components are leaking away during the integration. This scenario concludes with an 18% of erosion to the deal value, 18%. Varying the parameters, we can see that a normal under-delivery scenario easily destroys 10 to 30% of the deal value, even that it may look like the integration was completed more or less successfully. If the issues in the integration process are more serious, the damage is by no means limited to decreasing synergies and goodwill value. Operational disruption, failed process rollouts, loss of key talent and lack of motivation, gaps in customer service, breaches of contracts, decision paralysis, collapse of sales, and major customer churn. These are just a few unfortunate domino bricks for business spiraling down towards its demise. Correspondingly, standalone value of the acquired business will also spiral down. It's quite possible, we have all seen that happen, that a big portion of the target value is destroyed, even all of it in the worst case. I wanted to see how some recent studies support this view. So the topmost figures here are from the great KPMG study that I talked about earlier. Let's look at that closer, since there is a very interesting story here. As I said earlier, in their dataset, more than half of the acquirers destroyed shareholder value, and the market-adjusted buyer total shareholder value drops on average 7.4%. But this average of minus 7.4% accounts for both the successful and unsuccessful deals. So for the unsuccessful integrations, more than half of them, the situation is of course much worse. By making simple simulations with their data, it's easy to see that in the failing deals, a ballpark of 25% on average of the buyer value is wiped out in 2 years. This is a lot, since we are talking about the buyer value decrease, and usually the buyer is larger than the target. So a decrease of 25% in the buyer valuation is equivalent in general of much bigger drop in the target value, anything from 50% to 100% or much more, depending on the relative sizes of the companies. How is this possible? We buy a company with, say, $1 billion. How can we lose much more than $1 billion in the process by having issues in the integration? The key reason is that a huge failure may trigger the investors to re-evaluate the buyer, essentially pushing the situation into buyer repricing territory. What does the failure signal about the buyer's credibility, their strategic position in the market, their capability to plan and execute, the vision of their leadership, their future in general? The failure may open further doors for litigation, key talent loss, brand damage, customer churn, degrading earnings, and so on. The competitors will have a field day exploring their opportunities. With the bottommost figures here, I double-checked this view with another older but wider study which analyzed about 12,000 acquisitions. In their dataset, they found the smallest group of cases, 2% of the deals which were hugely destroying value. These 2% of the deals introduced a 73% median loss of value relative to the deal size. The data contains a very, very fat tail where some of the losses far exceed 100% of the deal size. The takeaway here is failing in M&A can really jeopardize not only the premium you paid and the expected synergies, not only the core standalone business of the target, but in extreme cases also the value of the buyer in the unforgiving market. So there are multiple levels of risk which need to be taken seriously. We have been looking at escalating levels of M&A risk here. Let's think about the people angle. What part do employee and culture-related issues play in these problems? There are many good studies identifying major contributing factors to M&A failures. Some typical reasons include strategically flawed deal, failures in running the integration program, operational or IT disruptions, customer-related disruptions, and so on. But it's not a surprise that people and culture-related issues are among the top risks. Looking at these studies, it would seem that depending on the data set, between 30 and 75% of the M&A integrations have people and culture-related risks, either as the key root cause or at least a major contributing reason for failures. So we can safely say that the people and culture issues are at least a major contributor in roughly half of the M&A failures. Remembering the total volume of the M&A deals and the number of touched people, there's every reason to think hard about the mitigations for employee-related risks. Now, we have been talking about how different kinds of risks can erode the enterprise value on several levels. Let's now take a pause for that and think about much more conservative point of view, the direct costs that employee-related issues will generate to the business during an M&A integration. Even if you manage to run the integration reasonably well and avoid major disruptions and erosion to the deal value, it's still a scientific fact that the employees will have many kinds of emotional responses to the ongoing change. And those emotions will impact their behavior at work, for better or worse. Evolution has developed these mechanisms to each of us to cope with the risks and opportunities in a potentially hostile, changing environment, be it savannah or a modern office. These emotional responses are often based on quite logical rationale. It's about what does this change mean for me? What's my best path to survive? If the acquisition puts my employment in danger, I should look for alternative positions. If the probability of my career advancement is collapsing, why should I go out of my way to support the business? If the integration brings, however, international work opportunities and a better compensation model and whatnot to me, I should probably stay and strive to be a valuable member of the new team. So I am focusing here on two key behavioral impacts, which the studies shown on the left nicely illustrate. First of all, how the changes upon integration make the productivity of people drop a lot. And secondly, how the acquisition or merger makes many people, especially your best people, leave the company. And to replace them is, of course, not just about hiring a new guy. You will have hiring costs for sure, onboarding and training costs, potentially visa or relocation costs, signing bonuses, but most importantly, time needed for the new talent to get up to speed and recreate the lost connections and lost experience. Putting all this to numbers, this table makes a very straightforward calculation of the involved expected costs. It takes the numbers from the quotes on the left, fills in some parameters, and runs the calculation. So if we do believe the good people at Deloitte and EY and Gallup, and why wouldn't we? Logically, we have to believe that the expected average cost for decreased productivity upon M&A is in the ballpark of $17K USD per each employee. And the cost to backfill those who left is on average in the ballpark of $14K USD for each employee, not just for those who actually left. The total expected cost is the sum 30 plus K in USD for each single employee on average. Again, by varying the parameters reasonably, we'll get a credible range of 10 to 50K per each employee. This is actually quite a lot, since we are not talking about costs linked to only a few individual people, nor are we talking about the total maximum risk here. This is mathematically the expected value of your incurring costs across every employee. This is the direct cost that you should expect on average, not including any lost revenues, lost clients, and all the other further risks for collapsing business, which we talked about earlier. I have been talking about financial cost, but the issues in M&A can also cause significant human discomfort and even suffering. People being afraid of losing their job or disappointed for collapsing careers, angry for the new processes hard to learn since they are not getting the support and so on. That's not good for anyone either. Understanding all these imminent costs and the risks we talked about earlier, the next logical question on our journey is, what can we do about it? Since we are seeking for mitigations to employee-related issues, I will say just a few words about our product, People Impact Analytics. It's based on AI and emotion behavior science, developed in the University of Geneva in Switzerland. We help our clients throughout the M&A initiative to understand the people and culture risks, first of all, predicting where the acquisition or merger will most likely fail. And secondly, we provide insights and concrete action recommendations to mitigate the people risks and to leverage opportunities, how to turn people from a risk into a driving force for change. It's the use of science, AI, and M&A process intelligence which provides us these unique insights. Does our analytics automatically solve all your problems? No, but it does give you highly useful decision support. It provides you actionable data to understand the people risks and focus your actions where it matters the most. To keep your key people committed and motivated, to make them see they are important, cared for, and engaged in the change, to drive the M&A more successfully and protect deal value before and after day one. Is the people risk that we have been talking about, is it worth the mitigation? We talked about direct costs due to people-related issues a little bit earlier. Let's now do a calculation focusing here on how we can mitigate the direct cost of people issues. We have three simple scenarios here, A, B, and C of different deal sizes. These are just scenarios. Your circumstances will, of course, be different. The expected cost leakage due to people-related issues is directly coming from the calculations we made earlier. You remember the 32K per employee. We have made one important assumption here. We expect that the analytics that we provide, that it enables you to mitigate with proper care and actions 25% of your people risk. This is a very conservative assumption. The rest is simple mathematics here. The analytics cost per deal value, it looks like this is the cheapest insurance ever. The return of investment or ROI, 40x to 400x. Again, by varying the parameters and assumptions reasonably, we can see that the expected ROI can fluctuate between 20x and 1000x or more. Even that we are only considering here the mitigation of direct costs and ignoring all the worst scenarios that we talked about earlier. But hey, they will be mitigated too. I have now covered all the details that I wanted to share with you today, the different levels of risks and the mitigation. As the final step, let's pull all of this together. So we have talked about multiple levels of cost and risk here with a lot of numbers. So let's try to create a coherent, bigger picture. What is the story that all these numbers tell? Have we now found the business case that we were seeking? So first of all, what your M&A acquisition or merger will practically always create is some direct costs coming from emotional responses by the impacted employees, affecting their behavior, which is causing declining productivity and backfilling costs. I already justified how the cost typically lands between 10 and 50K USD per each acquired employee. That number, however, does not account for the leaking synergies and goodwill value in general. Problems in the integration can lead to missed process and cost optimization opportunities, sticking to old inefficient habits, failing to realize new capabilities and connections and cross-selling opportunities and so on. The integration cost will easily creep up. The probability for this is high, more than 50% as we have seen, and the issues easily wipe out a low two-digit number from your deal value. If the issues are big enough, the consequences may cause a fundamental erosion of the business, and you will risk the core standalone value of the target. These cases are much more rare, but they do happen. We are talking about damages on career-ending level here. And as we have seen, it does not necessarily end there. Failing a major integration will send a disturbing signal to the investors who are smart. Problems may further cause brand damage, key talent loss, customer churn at the buyer, among many other issues. The investor will start questioning the buyer's strategic position, its vision and capability, the future in general. This can escalate the situation into buyer repricing territory. These are failures in epic proportions. Unfortunately, they happen too. As we have seen, people and culture risk often plays an important part in these issues on all the levels. So of course, there are usually other factors in play as well. As a ballpark number, half of all these problems have at least a major contribution coming from people-related factors. You don't want to enter any of these escalating levels of issues, of course. You want to drive the M&A activity successfully, delivering the deal thesis and the promised shareholder returns. So let's look at the mitigation. To manage the people and culture component of the risks, it will certainly help to identify and mitigate the issues right at the source, to act upfront before problems emerge and escalate, and any of this happens. We can help with our analytics. Our people impact analytics is a unique tool since it's based on emotion behavior science and AI to help solving this one of the big problems in the world. And it has a laser sharp focus on the M&A use cases. So all this is the business case that we have been seeking today. Why it makes sense to put people in the center of the integration, how you can mitigate huge financial and human risks right at the source easily, supported by our analytics, before these exponentially increasing levels of risk starts realizing. So while our seek today is now complete, I hope that our mutual quest is just beginning. Thinking about the total M&A volumes as we started our journey today, I cannot imagine a better and more important business case than to de-risk a combined 5 trillion investment while taking better care of 10 million people. For completeness, here is the key sources that were used for the modeling and assumptions in this presentation. I want to give a huge credit to all these authors. There is tons of experience and wisdom in these studies. If you want to use the links here, drop me an email and ask for the material, and I will share that with you. So that's it. Time is up. Thanks for your interest. Please do contact me if you want to talk more about these matters, and especially if you want to discuss how our people impact analytics might help you or your clients to run more successful M&A. We are selling and delivering worldwide directly to clients and also growing our partner network, so hoping to talk with you again soon. We'll keep you posted for further webinars and other news, so stay tuned. Thanks, and Timo, back to you, please.
Hey, thanks again, Petri.